First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at my deceased brother's wife that I'm not her husband? My male 31 brother passed away 16 months ago. I have two brothers, and he was the youngest. His wife was pregnant when he passed away, and both me and my older brother started helping her every day. We'd take turns in giving her rides to the hospital/work/grocery store, and would help her with the house as well as other things. However, she stopped calling my older brother and kept calling me to do things for her. I started taking care of the house/taking her places and taking care of financial issues. I noticed my brother wasn't showing up and helping. She said she didn't want to bother him since he has family and kids, and I didn't. So she thought I'd be okay with her calling every minute to ask me to do things for her. Saying I'm single, I don't have family to take care of, and so why not help? She even called me for every doctor visit, and when she went into labor, I was the one she called. It was a stressful phase, and once my niece was born, I started taking care of her as well. My sister-in-law would call me in the middle of the night wanting me to take my niece to the hospital. She'd have me to go with her to certain occasions her friends had. I started getting uncomfortable. I spoke to my family and my brother, who told me she didn't want him to help despite the offer, and it occurred to me that she was just focusing on me supporting her. Yesterday, she came to visit my family while everyone was there, including me. She started talking about what happened last week, my niece getting sick and taken to the hospital, and joked about how the doctor thought I was my niece's dad. My mom was staring at me confused. My sister-in-law then, before I leave, asked if I could go with her to attend her cousin's wedding, since she doesn't have friends to go with. I told her I was busy, and that I won't be going to the wedding of someone I don't know with her. She tried to argue, and got offended when I told her to ask my brother instead. I yelled at her that I'm not her husband, and it was wrong of her to act like that. The whole room went quiet, and they were all staring at me. She got upset and started crying. The whole family sided with her and came at me, saying I was being harsh and cruel to her, and that I shouldn't have said such an awful thing. I left after that, and I haven't heard from them since then. I feel bad, and I got to say it's just too much pressure and exhaustion. Now for the top comments. Everyone sucks here. She was taking advantage of you and assuming you would constantly help her just because you were single. That was very wrong of her. But your comment, how you're not her husband, was indeed cruel. There were certainly better ways for you to have broached that subject. Not being the husband is not a cruel comment. She was using him like one, which is massively unfair to him. Being on call for his niece 24/7 would hinder his ability to start a relationship. I'm surprised it took 16 months to snap. There were better ways to approach it, but a firm reminder is sometimes needed, especially after how much he has done. He's not on trial for saying he's not the husband, he's being judged for his approach. You stated a bottom line though, there were better ways to approach it. End of story. A private conversation with her, a conversation with his brother, or a conversation with both at once. The approach was unnecessary and mortifying for the sister-in-law. It was a lapse of judgment that even Opie seems to regret based on the last part of the post. Everyone sucks here. Not the a-hole. Admittedly, you shouldn't have yelled at her in front of family. However, presuming you were close to your brother, I'm sure you are also still grieving for him, while also being repeatedly forced into the role of his stand-in. It is probably easier for you to help than your other brother, because you don't have your own wife and kids, but you are not required to be her escort for social occasions. She could go to the wedding alone. Also, it has been 16 months. At some point, she needs to become self-sufficient. She is an adult. She needs to act like it. I understand that grieving her husband and being a single parent are hard, but forcing you to be the replacement is not a healthy response for you or her. Not the a-hole. People grieve in different ways, but you need to set your boundaries. You were uncomfortable, so you said no. Although you shouldn't have screamed it at her. You could have just told her no and then moved away. Maybe even involve your mom so she can get the point across. I just call a family meeting and apologize to her and tell her that you have boundaries and she needs to respect your space. Also, that you'll be there in your niece's life as an uncle, just like any other uncle. But you're in no way, form, and shape a pseudo-dad to her. I'm so sorry for your loss. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my wife lazy and a terrible mother? This is my first time posting, so excuse me for any mistakes I make. I'm a 57-year-old male, and my wife is 51-year-old female. We've been married for 28 years and have one son together that is 25. She's a stay-at-home wife. She never worked a day after we got married, since I inherited a company that had been in my family for many generations. So money was never a problem, and we lived more than comfortably. When our son was little, she took care of him and the house. Now that he's an adult, the chores are the only thing that she does. She used to take on writing but gave up because she said it's not as easy as she thought. Now, I don't consider myself sexist or that woman belongs in the house with kids. This was her choice because she never liked to work. The problem is, I work long hours and expect to at least have a dinner after the long day. We have a housekeeper that comes over twice a week, so her responsibilities are basically cooking and smaller chores. She stopped cooking and doing things lately because she doesn't feel like doing it. She spends her days hanging with her friends and shopping. Also, our son was born as a female and my wife always wanted a daughter. When he came out as trans, she threw a fit and was unsupportive. I paid for his surgery and he transitioned. She was never as caring towards him as before and uses wrong pronouns and his old name all the time. The other day, I came home and she didn't do anything whole day and I snapped. I told her that I'm sick of her not doing anything while I'm providing for our family. My son is also still in college, and I pay for all of his expenses and apartment because I want him to focus on school. The argument went on, and she decided to throw in my face how it's my fault she lost her daughter. This really shocked me, and I told her that she is lazy and also a terrible mother for talking as if her child is dead when we have a perfect and healthy son. I am at lost. Half of my family members are siding with her, half with me, including our son. She called me an a-hole and went to stay with her sister. Was I the a-hole? I'm seriously considering divorce. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I can't believe your marriage has lasted this long based on what you've said. She didn't used to be like this, but ever since our son officially transitioned via surgery, she changed. Have you tried to talk to her about therapy? It sounds like she's not handling your son's transition well. Not that that is an excuse for her actions towards or speaking about / to your son in that matter, but I know that some people just don't handle any change very well. Considering she's always been a stay-at-home, that could be an indication that she's that type of person. Also, thank you for being so damn supportive of your child. Added to add, son has been out of the home for 7 years and out of the closet for 11 years and mom has never been accepting. Mom is the a-hole. Therapy might help, but a-holes rarely care to change. Not the a-hole. Thank you for being the supportive parent many LGBTQ+ children dream of. Of course, I always suspected that my son is not a girl, since he was more interested into boys' things growing up, but passed it as being a tomboy until he was comfortable coming out. Also, wasn't surprised when he finally did. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling husband we shouldn't let mother-in-law live with us? My 44 female, husband 45 male, has always been the black sheep of the family. His parents, mother in particular, have never approved of his life choices and always favored his younger brother over him. And no matter what my husband did, they have never approved. My husband went limited contact with his family about a year after we got married, when my mother-in-law demanded he get a paternity test done on our oldest daughter, because she didn't believe that she was his child. They have never met our 2 youngest children, and my husband and I have no plans to have them meet, unless our children choose to do so. My mother-in-law and I do not have a good relationship, and I have not spoken to her in 15 years. Fast forward to last year. My father-in-law passed away and my mother-in-law is not handling it well. 6 months ago, she fell and is having a hard time living on her own. My brother-in-law called us last week and demanded that my husband take her in because he is too busy to take care of her. Brother-in-law also informed us that mother-in-law has no money, aside from her small teaching pension, and cannot afford to stay in her house anymore. We asked what happened to the money she received from father-in-law's life insurance, and it was spent. Husband told my brother-in-law we would discuss it and get back to him. I told him that in no certain terms was she coming here. My husband agreed, but feels guilty because she is his mother and will be homeless if he doesn't take her in. So I asked him about how much his mother cared about him being homeless when she threw him out of the house and he was sleeping in his car for 3 weeks. He said he understood, and he doesn't want her here either, but he doesn't want her to be on the streets. I suggested we look into adult living facilities / care homes for seniors that we could move her into, as well as state funding to see if she qualifies. My husband is hesitant because he wants to help his mother, but he also knows that her living with us is just not feasible because of the way she treats him. He called his brother and told him that he didn't think her coming here was a good idea and brought up the suggestion about senior living home, and he flipped out. He called my husband ungrateful and shamed him for abandoning mother-in-law in her time of need. Now his entire family is calling and texting and calling us cruel. Husband is starting to waffle and keeps saying that we could buy a house with an in-law suite. I told my husband that we aren't terrible, that we are our own family, and she had multiple chances to be a part of our lives but decided to be petty and hateful instead. So am I the a-hole for not letting her come live with us? Now for the top comments. So, it's okay for his brother and the rest of the relatives to abandon her but not for you? Not the a-hole at all after what she did to you guys. You reap what you sow. She decided to treat you crappy for years. She can live with her other son or figure something out herself. Exactly. Not the a-hole. They are piling on abuse, like what worked in past cycles against him. Don't buckle up, OP, and help him like you've been doing all these years to stand strong on his own. These people aren't his family because they've shown over decades what they think of him, and their hypocrisy is laughable. Not the a-hole, the brother and family acting all high and mighty when they have not even offered their own homes. The mother does not get to live with your family when she mistreated and abandoned her own son during his time of need. You do not want that kind of person in your own home who could negatively impact your own children's upbringing. You and your husband offered a great alternative solution. Not your fault she did not save or expend the life insurance wisely. But you don't understand. They can't take care of mother-in-law because it's inconvenient for them. It's not their fault. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to get rid of the anime body pillow that saved my marriage? My husband and I are best friends during the day. Love of my life. It's at night that's an issue. I'm a blanket stealer. I once yanked them so hard, poor hubby flipped a full 180. Hubby, for his part, is a thrasher. Bruce Lee would be jealous of the moves he pulls off while unconscious. It's a constant war between us when we fall asleep, and both of us often wake up sore and exhausted. It was starting to affect our relationship. Neither of us wanted to move to a separate bed because we like spending our nights together. But it seemed like an inevitability. We were both crabby every morning, and we started fighting as soon as we got up. It sucked, but neither of us wanted to concede defeat and move to the other bed. Quick background. I was a huge nerd as a teenager. Full-on otaku. Go ahead, cringe. I do too. One night, as a joke, I brought down an old anime body pillow from the attic. I know, the cringe. And plop it down between my husband and I, declaring it our demilitarized zone. Hubby also thought it was hilarious, and we named her DMZ-chan. She stayed there the whole night. It was a game changer. DMZ-chan protected me from hubby's REM-induced rampages. And she's just heavy enough that I can't yank the blankets at full speed. DMZ-chan is now a beloved part of our nightly routine. We both thought it was the funniest thing, but she legitimately helped us solve the only real issue in our marriage. One day, mother-in-law stopped by to pick something up. She got up to use the restroom, passing by our open bedroom door. You can guess what she saw. DMZ-chan, propped up in the middle of our bed, her giant soulful anime eyes looking right back at mother-in-law. When she got back, she quickly grabbed her stuff and left, hubby and I both confused. She later mentioned DMZ-chan to hubby while they were on the phone, and it absolutely mortified him. As far as I know, mother-in-law now thinks we're deviants in a three-way relationship with a body pillow. Hubby was too embarrassed to explain, and now he wants to put DMZ-chan back in the attic. I was upset. I told him I didn't want to go back to boxing each other at night, and that DMZ-chan helped us so much in that. He agreed, but suggested we get a normal, plain body pillow case to replace her. I felt like there was no need to spend money on something we already have, and if it really was that big of an issue, we can put her in the closet while we have company over. Hubby is informed that she has to go permanently. I know he's embarrassed, but I feel we shouldn't have to compromise our inside jokes to appease other people. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. The real problem isn't about removing the pillow, but the fact that your mother-in-law made a scene about something that isn't any of her business. Your husband should stop enabling that. I guess I don't understand what the embarrassment is about. It's not like they keep her there because of being fans. It's something that serves as a functional purpose. Why not just tell mother-in-law the truth it was a toy from when OP was a kid, but we now use it as a bed spacer? Everyone sucks here. Mother-in-law sucks for making such a big deal about it. Husband for not explaining a simple and straightforward situation to his mom and instead having his knee-jerk reaction. You for not taking the reasonable compromise of a plain pillowcase for it. Info: can't you just take the cover off? Yes, hubby has suggested we get a new pillowcase. My problem is, I feel like he's kowtowing to mother-in-law about a private issue. Edit: sweet bees this blew up. Was not expecting all the attention. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone for chiming in. I admit I was being stubborn. I drove over to Target on my lunch break and bought a new cover for $10. I put it on DMZ Chan as soon as I got home. To those asking, I did wash her after fishing her out of the attic. And I'm now waiting on hubby to get home so I can apologize for making him uncomfortable. DMZ Chan shall live on in our hearts and under the blanket when company's over. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my sister out financially even though I can afford to? I, 34 female, am the eldest of 9 siblings. My sister, Sarah, 24, and I aren't close. I love all of my siblings, and I'm close with all of them, except for her. Growing up, she wouldn't introduce me to her friends and would refuse to acknowledge me at family gatherings over the years. In short, she was distant with me but not my other siblings. After I moved out of my parents' house, Sarah and I grew further apart and didn't see each other except at family functions. She would ignore my attempts at reaching out and or including her in anything that my other siblings and I did together. She didn't come to my wedding. I didn't even know that I'd gotten divorced until 2 years later. She refused to accept my request to add her to socials and never responded to any calls or texts. It hurts, but I didn't want to push, thinking that she might eventually come around so long as I kept the door open. A year ago, she finally accepted my social media request and sent me a DM. It started out as just a, "Hey sister, how are you?" After some awkward small talk, I learned that she's not doing well financially due to her boyfriend losing his job. She asked me if I could lend her some money as she was short for groceries. I agreed and told her that she didn't have to pay me back. I sent what she asked for and a bit extra. She thanked me and asked if we could visit for a proper catch-up. I agreed, and we set it up. The visit came and went, and she didn't show up or answer my call/texts. I assumed that something came up and texted that she let me know when we could reschedule. 2 days later, she DM'd saying her cell phone had been cut off for non-payment. She asked for help to get it reconnected and said she'd pay me back when she could. I agreed and sent it to her. A few days later, and she asked for more money. I sent her the money again, but told her that I can't send anything else until she pays me back because I didn't have any more that I could spare. I felt like I've been used. Then one day she asked for a cab fare. I said that I'd pick her up and drive her myself. She got angry and accused me of not trusting her. She blasted me on a family group chat saying that I was refusing to help her and that I was selfish. Sarah recently posted something about how she loves her family and how much they mean to her. She tagged all of my siblings except for me. 5 minutes later, she sent me a text asking me for money for diapers, and I lost it. I asked her why she only ever contacts me when she wants money, and that I was feeling used. She denied it and said she was angry that I could accuse her of such a thing. I sent her screenshots to prove it. She said, just forget it then. I tried to apologize for being rude, and she ignored me. A few days ago, she asked for help paying for rent and offered to repay the loan as soon as she could. I could help, but I don't want to. I feel like I'm being used. It hurts that she only ever contacts me when she wants money. So, am I the a-hole? Why do you feel bad for accurately calling her out for using you? Like, totally not the a-hole. Please stop funding her life. You're so desperate for a relationship with her that you're allowing her to manipulate you into giving money. Don't fall for that crap. I feel bad because I don't want my nieces to go without. My family and I try to look out for one another without getting into each other's personal lives or finances without invitation. There was a bit of parentification going on when I was a kid too, so I kind of see her as a daughter of sorts. Still not your issue. She is an adult and is responsible for her decisions and kids. She is using you. Try reading what you just wrote, but pretend a friend wrote it. Often we are too close to a situation to see the truth. Don't give her any more money. Best of luck to you. I am huge into family, but not to the point of being used. You are the oldest. Stop being passive and get a straight answer by asking straight questions. Start asking the other siblings what her problem is. Why is she leaving you out and excluding you? Make this a family issue since Sarah keeps reiterating that she is into the family. Info, I feel like we're missing something big here. Do you know why Sarah's always been so distant with you? I think it's because she and I are so far apart in age. I don't really know, to be honest. Not the whole, but refusing her could put you in a bad situation with the family. Have you talked to your family about this? Maybe point out that she blatantly left you out of her post about family and show them your receipts of her only contacting you for money. I've talked with a sister and brother that she's closest to about it. They said they talked to her, but that I should just let it go and stop trying so hard to win her affection. They said that I need to just stop sending her money. Apparently she used to hit them up all the time until they cut her off financially, and said that she's a grown woman who can and should take care of herself. There's your answer. Cut her off. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for pressing charges on my mom when my family told me not to? I, 18 female, and my boyfriend, 22 male, have been living in our first apartment together for a while now, completely independent from our parents. I have never had a good relationship with my mom, 37 female. I had been taken away from her for severe neglect as a young child and was raised by my great-grandparents, 84 male plus 80 female. She wasn't a part of my life for 13 years. When my grandparents eventually passed from old age, she regained custody and moved me across the province I live in. Anyway, when we had settled in our new place, because I have better credit than my boyfriend, we were looking into getting our Wi-Fi under my name. But when I called the best provider in our little rural area, they explained to me that I owe them over $800, which couldn't make any sense as I've never had an account with them in the first place. They gave me the address and the year that it had first been owned, and it was one of the first places I had lived with my mom. I had been 15. We were on civil terms, and I let her know that because I just had a new job and have moved out. Note that I haven't lived with her since I was 15. I've mainly lived with friends as she's pretty crazy, that I won't give her money for my phone bill that I didn't owe her. But was going to anyway until she paid a balance owing under my name. Because not only was my credit now horrible, but we couldn't get Wi-Fi, and that's something I needed for school/work. She blocked me, cut my phone off, and went to my in-laws to try and break up my relationship with my boyfriend. The only way the money owed can be waived is if I press charges for fraud, but when I asked for advice, it was met with, "How can you do that to your mom?" She wouldn't be able to get divorced then. She's on her fourth husband and she had cheated on him. How is that my problem? Anyway, am I the a-hole? Should I do it? You don't press charges. The province does. The fraud can be shown with your birth certificate. You're not old enough to sign a contract when this account was opened, so provider was negligent. You probably have to file a report with the police, but nothing much will happen to your mother. P.S. Get a credit report because she didn't just do this once. This is good advice. She stole money from you and tried to sabotage your relationship with your partner. This is astonishing and abnormal. You don't owe her anything. It seems like you can't demand your overly strenuous relationship either way, so you have nothing to lose. It may seem bad from an external perspective to people who don't know the situation well, but their opinion doesn't matter. Only yours. You need to cover this debt, fix your credit, and get a Wi-Fi, which is crucial for your studies and work. The real question is, how can your mother do that to you? She was an egg donor who has abandoned her responsibility to you, and has literally committed a crime by stealing your identity and leaving you with a bad debt that's harming your ability to live your life successfully. Will these relatives who don't want you to press charges pay the bill? If not, then ignore them for suggesting you just eat your mother's crime. If the mom did it here, how many more lines of credit/accounts did she open in Opie's name? Continue with the charges. She does not have your best interest in mind. Also, the company entered into a contract with a minor which is illegal. Minors cannot be in a contract in the US. Apparently, your mom represented herself with your name, but the company did not do due diligence to avoid providing service to a minor. Access a free credit report every year starting now. Identify if other illegal charges are there. Best to you. OB's in Canada, I believe, based on province, so the Crown presses charges, not an individual. Also, it is illegal here too, just so you know. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not involving myself in my ex-husband's child's life? I'm 25 female, ex-husband 29 male, and I divorced a year ago after I found out that he had an affair son, Carl, 1 male. By that time, I already had Adam, 3 male, and Ben, 1 male. Since my husband had an affair, he lost any right to alimony or child support from my part due to prenup stipulations. He also lost his job at my dad's and a car. When he came back begging me for an opportunity, he disclosed that Carl's mom passed away during childbirth, and we were the only family he had. I was hurt for his betrayal, but yet I still felt love for this man and didn't want to hurt a motherless child, so I told him that I would revoke his mandatory child support payments because I don't really need them thanks to my dad, so he could focus on doing what was best for Carl and that anything he did, monetary, for our kids was welcome but not necessary. The problem was that, a few months after the divorce, he grew comfortable enough to ask me about how to take care of a child, to the point where he would try to leave me with Carl while I explained. After I realized what was he doing and when I confronted him, he admitted that he was trying to create a bond between us so his child could have a mom too. I immediately put Carl in his arms and said that while I was sorry for the loss of his mother, I'm not willing to play mommy of his affair kid and to never bring the subject again. He told me how unfair I was being, because now that he's young, it's the perfect time to make an introduction, and how awful it will be for Carl to see his brothers grow up with me. I felt pressured, so I took our kids and told him to contact me again through a lawyer for any future discussion. When I got home, I told my family what happened, and while almost everyone agreed with me, my mom said that I was a horrible human being because that child had no mother, and that she raised me better than this. My dad tried to defend me as well as my sisters, but my mom said that what happened between my ex and I didn't have anything to do with an innocent child, and she hopes I do the right thing, and I love the child. She's also pressuring me to buy things for the kid and make space in my home, such as giving him a bedroom and all, because she won't allow that I take my kids home and he's left there alone. But I said that I don't want to involve myself with him, and now she's not talking to me unless I agree. Now for the top comments. Yikes. Not stay home. Girl, I'm throwing you a parade for your fantastic boundaries and compassion. The dude broke your trust and your heart, and then took advantage of your gracious decline of child support. His decision to have an affair behind your back and then insist you be responsible to mother the child is abhorrent. Your mom sounds like she is grieving that he is no longer her son-in-law and wants everything to feel like a family again. She probably figures since the other woman has passed away, all harm is bygone, and now everything can go back to the way it was. That's absolutely not the case. It's absolutely on your ex-husband to parent the child, which probably has him beside himself with the responsibility he resents. The child's loss of a mother is tragic, but no reasonable person could believe that your presence could right that wrong. His mother has passed away, no one can replace her. His dad cheated on you and has flat out admitted to manipulating you multiple times to make his life more convenient. The baby deserves better 100%, but that doesn't obligate you to put up with worse. Maybe your mom should adopt him. That child is nothing more to you than every other motherless child in the land. Suggest, sincerely, that your ex get busy and find a loving and gentle new wife who wants to be a mother to his child. There are lots of women out there who would be interested. My infertile friend actually married a widower with 3 kids, and admitted it was as much to be a mom as to be a wife. Several years in, they are very happy. I disagree the child is nothing to her. It's her children's sibling. This is a stickier situation than it could be because their half-brother is going to feel left out. Is that her problem to fix? No. She's not a-hole for boundaries, but I can't help but feel for a kid that's gonna see his brothers go spend time with mom when he doesn't have one. Dad could use that time to make his son feel special, or he could be an A. That's not Opie's responsibility at all, but my heart hurts for that kid, and I get her mom's point. Hopefully as they get older, she might allow sleepovers if the older two ask for him to come over, but she wouldn't have to. It would be noble of her to do it on her own volition, but Dad is being sneaky and a jerk about things. I see your point. Sort of, but not really. Why should a woman and her kids be forced to even know or ever meet the children the man sires on mistresses, one-night stands, or affairs? Sure, they are siblings in the sense of the man's DNA. Why is that even important? Why can't they be thought of as a sperm donor's other offspring? Why all the sibling stuff? NTA, NTA, NTA. I'm horrified at your mom's suggestions. It's an affair child, for crying out loud. How would your mom feel if your dad suddenly came home with an affair child? Not very good, I'd suppose. It would ruin the family, I presume. Now, your kids are still young, but if they were any older and they understood this, they probably won't be very welcoming of this kid too. You are not a saint, and you do not owe that child and your ex anything. No, no, no. Even if the child did nothing wrong, why do you have to live with the proof of your ex's infidelity? It would take a toll on you and affect your emotions. How would your mom feel if your dad suddenly came home with an affair child? She would probably take him in. My mom herself is an affair kid. She says that not having someone loving you or accepting you is horrible, and that I'm in a position to help because the baby's young, motherless, I have the time and money, so I have to do what's best. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my nephew it's not his birthday? My daughter's 7th birthday was yesterday. We went by my mom/her grandma yesterday for dinner, cake, and gifts. My brother and my nephews were there too, and daughter gets along well with her cousins. My mom has this birthday crown that she has the kids wear when it's their birthday. One of my nephews, 5, asked my daughter if he could wear the crown for a little bit. She agreed. Then when we were doing cake, he asked her to help her blow out candles. She said sure. I kinda looked at my brother, hoping he'd say something to his son, but he didn't. Then when we were giving my daughter her gifts, my nephew, who still had a crown on, asked my daughter if he could help her open her presents. I stepped in and said, "No, it's her birthday, not yours. Let her open her gifts by herself." My nephew seemed kinda pouty. Thing about my daughter is she's too nice sometimes, and has a hard time if she thinks saying no will hurt feelings. This seemed like one of those times. Later, my brother said nephew was just having fun. It wasn't that big of a deal. The brother and his wife let him open their gifts on their birthdays, and he knows they're not his gifts to keep. I said, yeah, but that's you, an adult. She's a kid and should get to celebrate her own birthday without sharing it. My brother said I'm teaching my daughter to be mean. Am I the a-hole? He is teaching his son that he always has to get his way and be the center of attention. 5 is plenty old enough to realize that other people matter, and not every day is about them. His kid is being raised to be entitled. Wait till he tries that at a school friend's birthday party. This happened at a party when my daughter was in kindergarten. One of the attendees had an absolute screaming meltdown because she was not allowed to blow out a birthday child's candles, nor open the presents. Turned out to be the child my daughter had talked about all year, who was always throwing tantrums. We did not invite her to my daughter's party that following summer. Not today, home. You're teaching your daughter it's okay to say no and have boundaries. A nephew needs to learn how to hear no and respect boundaries. This is important. Opie, I don't want to put the fear of God into you over an interaction between 2 cute little kids, but do not let your brother teach your daughter that saying no is being mean. Jesus freaking Christ. This is so important. Not stay home. Teach your daughter that saying no is her right and doing so is not mean, no matter how bratty her cousin is. Also, give the girl back the birthday crown for crying out loud. Who does that?